Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Good evening. Hello, hello, hello. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Can you see me? Can you hear me? All right. Fantastic. Good news. Oh, gosh. And then that gives me a runny nose. Isn't that something? Well, good evening and welcome, everybody. Septia, that's a new name. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. Let me get up to the top here and welcome everybody. See if Scott was one of the first ones here again. No Douglas, South Florida. South Florida was the first one here tonight. Scott was very early, as always. Thank you, Scott. You're usually number one. Patty's Garden, good evening. Theoxerus, good evening. Hope everything's well in your area. Let me see here. I think I saw Sue Me and Rick from Ready Magazine. And who else is here? Utah Mike. Good evening. Utah Mike, thank you for going to Salt Creek Living and following them. I greatly appreciate that. That's a really good channel. They give really good information on hunting and meat processing and things like that. Those are essential skills I think we're going to need in a post-apocalyptic world. So if you can go there and follow them, that would be phenomenal. That would be something of great value to you. Tuck by V1, good evening. Good to see you as well. And then we had that one new person. What was that name again? Leslie G. Cynthia Brawley. We have two. Good evening and welcome to you both. Okay, so what we're doing this evening, we are continuing on with one of the best synopsis of what we need to survive in the upcoming war, and that's James Jones's book, Surviving the Coming War, A Guide to Wartime Survival for Civilians. I tell you, there's a link down in the description. This is a 100% must-have encyclopedia of information for you in a grid-down situation. I can't recommend this book enough. This is fantastic. Tonight we're going to be doing chapters 20 and 21. They really aren't all that long in the book. We're going to kind of expound on them a little bit here in our review of it. But let's do what Mr. Jones has written about it first. So alternative power under wartime conditions, he talks about alternatives and rechargeables. Primarily, that's going to be your gasoline, diesel, liquid petroleum fueled generators. He has both a 5 kW and a 1 kW. He talks about solar power storage and recharging systems. And he has let me see what he has here. He has a $3,000 unit. I believe it's a 1,000 watt hour unit. And then he talks about staying warm when the power goes out. This is not very much. It's only 3/4 of a page. But let me tell you, this is phenomenal, must-have information. Remember, you can starve to death. One of the things that we have to realize is most of the homes built in the United States after 1950 are not designed to have fuel burned inside the home as a source of heat. Now, there are some exceptions. For example, my daughter's house in New Jersey uses fuel oil or oil as a heating agent. But I'm going to tell you that most of the fuels that are available to us in a pre-World War environment are not going to be available to us in a post-World War environment. So our homes aren't designed for that. We aren't designed to have a fireplace inside the house. Now, I had a fireplace in the last house I owned, the big house, but it was a gas fireplace. It wasn't designed to accommodate logs. So, you take that in mind. How are you going to keep warm? He points out something else that, I'll tell you the truth, I really never thought of. And I think this is a brilliant statement. And that is, we have become so accustomed to having commercial heating, whatever you have, like we have forced air heating here. You can have radiator heating, you can have radiant heating, you can have all different sorts of heating. We are so used to having heat provided for us in our homes that very few of us have good blankets that we can use without heating. So remember, you want to create a microcosm or a micro environment if it really gets cold. And that is, you could put like a pup tent up in your living room and then go inside your pup tent, and then your exhalations, which are 98.6 degrees, are going to warm up the inside of that pup tent. And so that's going to provide a micro environment that's going to be slightly warmer than the outside environment. So that's going to be another layer of protection for you as you try to get warm. Cats and prepping. How do you get rid of the crown nonsense? Don't comment. What the crown is it's just telling who is most active in commenting. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that you're going to, if you comment and give good comments, it's going to give you a crown. Okay, what else does he have here? Make sure you seal off the place as much as you can. Most homes are overly sealed, in my opinion, and so you just have to be aware of that. Then he talks about how are you going to cook in a post-apocalyptic world. And he talks about sun ovens and solar cookers, and then access to power. So how is Lee going to cook? Well, for the first 4 to 6 weeks, I have a butane indoor one-burner stove. So that's what I'll be using inside the house. It's odorless. It's safe for indoor use. Of course, along with that, I will have a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector and a fire extinguisher, just for safety's sake. Then I will use those. I will use that propane or butane, one burner butane stove. I have 3 of them, believe it or not. I'll use that to cook here inside the house. After that's done, then I'm going to go out in the backyard and I'll have a fire pit, either a fire pit or a barbecue pit. I'll also have a solar oven. So those are going to be my primary ways of cooking. I have a 55-gallon drum full of charcoal, and then I have an additional 4 40-pound bags of charcoal, 2 on the back porch and 2 in the garage. So another 160 pounds of charcoal that I can use. I've got a 55-gallon barrel full of cut wood, another 55-gallon barrel full of the chips that you buy there are wood chips. They look like pellets, look like capsules of medicine. You buy those. There are some rural heaters that use that, and it goes through a kind of like a little chain feed to burn them to heat up their home. So I've got a barrel of those. I figured that might be really good in my rocket stove. So I've got charcoal, wood. I'm looking at my back door right now. Charcoal, wood, chips. Oh, the last one's dirt. Last one's I've got topsoil, dirt, manure. I'm kind of mixing it all together, and that's what I use for my garden top dressing. So those are the 4 55-gallon barrels I can look at right here out my back door. Then going to use an awful lot of can cooker, which is basically a outdoor pressure cooker. I'm going to use an awful lot of what's it called? Cast iron cooking. And so that's going to be a lot of that stuff. Yeah, suburban prepper. You can use pellets for smoking. There are also pellets that are designed for a specific heating system for rural homes. So, and I'm not going to use them for smoking. I'm using them in the same way as the heater that these are designed for. Let me see if I can find a picture of that for you. get back here. Yeah, there we go. So those are the pellet stoves that they sell at Home Depot that take these little pellets that I'm talking about. These are the pellets that I have a 55-gallon barrel full of these pellets in the backyard. And so, these are really compressed. They're compressed about to the size of a large pill, a capsule, and they just burn really fantastic. So that's what I'll be using. One of the other things that I'll use is I bought 2 stainless steel buckets, and they're probably about a 4-gallon bucket, maybe a 5-gallon bucket. I don't think they're 5-gallon. They got to be about 3 or 4 gallons. And I bought some rocks, some large river rocks that kind of nice and round and everything else. And I filled up each one. So what I can do is I can take those, put them in my fire pit, and warm those up. Then as one warms up, I'll bring it into the house and put it on the door to my oven and use radiant heat from that to heat up the kitchen area. And while that one's kind of discharging its heat, I'll be reheating the other one out on the fire pit. So that'll be constantly changing those two out. The hot one always inside, the other one getting hot outside. However, just think if you're burning a combustible at least 12 hours a day, trying to maintain that heat inside your house, imagine the amount of fuel that's going to require. It's going to be an inordinate amount of fuel. I don't have that kind of fuel. So, it's going to be very judicious in how I do that. Sourcing fuel for cooking in a post-apocalyptic world is going to be one of your largest tasks. How are you going to find the combustibles to cook? And that's where the sun ovens and things like that are going to become extremely beneficial. Tammy Harder, good evening. Welcome. Good to see you. Patty, that you have a valid reason to be concerned about it. I will tell you that I am always afraid of anything under pressure around heat, but I'm also aware that I can take mitigating actions for that. And that's why I always have a carbon monoxide detector, a smoke detector, and a fire extinguisher around whenever I have anything combustible, except for Helen's smelly candles. She burns candles to kind of keep the house fresh, scent and everything going. And so we do have one person awake whenever that's lit. We won't let it, even though it's in a jar on a fireproof granite sink countertop. We still, if one of us goes to sleep, when the other one goes to sleep, they blow out the candle. That's just one of the rules. We have to be very, very cautious with flammable stuff. And you are absolutely right. Okay, let me see. Any other questions about alternative alternative power and heating sources? You can kind of take that idea of alternative heating and build some reflectors to reflect sunlight or heat into your house. So that's another option for you. We have the solar system, and then I have one small portable heater. We'll probably put that in one room. Don't try to heat the whole house. Heat one room at a time, and that's what you want to do. Same thing with cooling. Cool one room, let everybody go in there for a break, come out, but don't try to cool the entire house. Don't try to heat the entire house. That will not work for you. Okay, part 2, and this is the one where people really get caught up on this, and I think we'll have a really good discussion on this, and it's surviving in a wartime economy. He talks about people surviving through the USSR, Japan, and post-World War II, people surviving in Germany at post-World War II. Talks about gangs. The recent emergence of well-organized theft rings is no accident. These operations liberate goods from trucks, shipping containers, warehouses, and stores and markets, and then markets them through their own outlets to the public. So this is basically the black market, okay? They're going to steal and sell. Once the government initiates a controlled economy and the black market expands, it will be challenging for the individual citizen to maintain a self-reliant lifestyle or safe economic activities. One of the things I got highlighted here, this is one of those you got to be concerned with, is jealous neighbors may even be tempted to turn you into the authorities who will confiscate your food out of jealousy. Okay? So if somebody knows that you have a whole bunch of stuff and they can't get access to it, they may turn you in to have it confiscated under their false impression that that will get them more. Whereas, if they just cooperate, I would probably give them more. So that's, snitches. That's a good way of putting it, Cats and Pepper. So then he has a list of trade and barter supplies. Let me see. So let me read this part here. While survival items for personal use can be kept surreptitious, trading will disclose what you have. High-value items and inevitably attract the attention of black marketeers, looters, and even government agencies. Trade networking and security associations will be necessary to avoid being pillaged and intimidated. The Chinese symbol for disaster and opportunity is the same. Many a shrewd entrepreneur has risen from poverty to wealth using survival skills in wartime. Then the last thing he talks about is having livestock and how that's going to be used in a post-apocalyptic world. There's a story, Aesop. If you go back to the ancient Greeks, Aesop told a story about the goose that laid the golden eggs, and so the goose was made of gold as well, and so one golden egg would be taken to the king every day, and he got greedy and wanted more eggs, and the goose couldn't produce any more eggs. So he said, well, the goose is worth 3 eggs in gold, so I'll kill the goose and get those, that weight of 3 gold. So you killed the means of production, whereas you could have had more than 3 eggs if you just waited over time. Okay, so that's Aesop's fable about how sometimes we get a little bit prejudiced in our thought process, and we start looking at, we want everything now instead of being able to get it over time. And the same thing with people who will be looting you or looking for you for survival items. Now, one of the things, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, one of the biggest mistakes we as preppers make, and he points this out in his book when he talks about things will change in value over time. But one of the things we make a mistake with is when we talk about trading, bartering, whatever, we never announce, number one, which scenario we're referring to, because, for example, in a financial breakdown, if the economy collapses tomorrow, my having this Geiger counter does nothing for me, okay? Whereas if we're talking about a nuclear attack, this Geiger counter is one of the most important things in this, probably on this part of the area, okay? Because I don't know how many other people have it. So, that is totally scenario dependent as to its overall value. The second thing is, where are we in the timeline, okay? If I'm a month after a nuclear attack, that Geiger counter is no use anymore because there's no more radiation. If it's a surface burst and we've got some fallout from it. So even in that scenario, somewhere along the timeline, something that was important at the beginning becomes unimportant at the end. Likewise, something that is unimportant at the beginning becomes important at the end. One of the things, and I love the way he puts this, one of the things that we really fail to take into account when we're talking about, see if I can find it here. I should have highlighted it. So one of the things that we forget is, and a lot of these people who talk about barter, he's talking about our introduction to the global market. Everybody has everything they need right now. Now, most of it is breakable and disposable. So back in when I was growing up, if something broke, you repaired it. Okay. Nowadays, if it breaks, you throw it away and get a replacement. So you have to think about, what's going to be most important to you are going to be those things that are repairable. A car with a carburetor is a lot easier to get to run than a car with a electronic injection engine or fuel injected engine or what computer controlled. So once that computer goes bad, you got to toss it and replace it. Okay. Once the carburetor goes bad, you can adjust it. So there's things that we have to take into consideration of the overall value. Repairable items are going to have far higher value than do disposable items, if that makes sense. Now, barter is going to be very, very difficult. There's a channel on Facebook that I belong to, and the name of the channel is Prepping for the Long Term, or Long-Term Prepping, and Long-Term Preparedness. Oh, crap. I want to make sure I get it right and send it to the right place. So just 1 second, let me get it here, because I'm sure I'm a moderator for it, and I'm sure somebody's made a comment that I need to approve or disapprove. I want to make sure I get the name of the channel right. Nope, it's not working. Oh, I know why. Because I'm in YouTube instead of Facebook. That's why. Okay. Yep. So, as a matter of fact, the comment that's up is by a guy named Jin Soku Shin, and he is a survivor of the fall or collapse of the East-West Wall, the Soviet bloc, and he was over on the Soviet side, the Soviet bloc side, the Warsaw Pact side, when the wall came down, and so he has a lot that he shares about barter in a post-apocalyptic world for them. When the wall came down, and he shows pictures of. Let me see here. Let me get out of that one. There we go. And he shows pictures of what it was like over there. And so, no food in the grocery stores, and no meat in the meat markets and everything else. And so he gives us a very good discussion, prepping for the long term. And he gives us a very good discussion around what it's like and how you survive in a situation like that. So this was the total financial collapse as well as governmental collapse. And then all the things that happen bad around you. And so, if our economy collapses, or if we have a war, or if we have all different kinds of things, then we aren't going to have the same structures that we have now. So here's a couple of things I'm going to add to what Mr. Jones says in his book. Number one, everybody has what they need right now. Everybody has sewing kits. Everybody has flashlights. Everybody has batteries. What they're going to be looking for is food. Okay? So, number one, you're preparing, and you are prepared. So you have food for your family. These other people don't have food. They want to come to get your food. So the question becomes two things. Number one, are you willing to give up some of your food to somebody else? And if so, what do you want in exchange for it? Now, these are people who have not prepared. So if they have not prepared and you have, then pretty much you have everything and they have nothing. So what do they have to offer you? All they're going to have to offer you is labor. And so you're going to, that labor could be guard duty, acquiring water for you, acquiring firewood, which is going to be extremely important. So basically what you're going to have is you're going to be paying your labor with your extra food in order to keep them alive so that they can help keep you alive. And that's the relationship that I see primarily happening. I don't see you going out with a thimble and a sewing needle and a spool of thread and saying, hey, I want to barter. Does anybody have anything that I want? Because they aren't going to have what you want. I also, I got into that thing, started buying all these little $1 alcohol bottles because people said they would be great for barter. And this is before I really started thinking about barter. So I've got all these great little 1 ounce bottles of liquor that I can give to somebody. Well, somebody who's willing to only accept liquor in exchange for labor, probably the only thing I'll accept, are they going to give me good labor? I mean, if all they want is alcohol, they may be a problem. And I may not get the quality of labor that I'm looking for in exchange for that alcohol. So I want you to kind of challenge a lot of the thought processes that you've had about barter, about trade in a post apocalyptic economy. And so, number one is if I'm prepping and they aren't, why would I barter with them? What are they going to have other than labor that they are going to give me? Are they going to give me the same amount of labor for a box of 22 LR that they will give me for feeding their family one meal for the day? Okay. So, what's going to be most important to them? Another thing, I probably would not barter with any kind of ammunition or weapons. Anything that can be used against me, I probably would not use. Because at some point, they're going to say, I'm getting a portion of what they have. And if they give me a gun, I'll get all that they have. And believe me, that thought will come across their mind. They will want everything that you have. So, especially if it's a family with children, parents will do anything to feed their children, even to kill somebody else. If it's a difference between killing somebody else and their children starving, they're going to kill somebody else. They're not going to allow their children to starve. So you have to be aware of that in your neighborhood and as you go about the barter economy. Another thing is, if you read Selko Begovich's stories about his life in Eastern Europe after the fall of the Iron Curtain, and he was also in Yugoslavia when it broke apart. Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, all these different small ethnic countries, and then they started fighting against each other. He was also in that part of the fighting. And he says the same thing. He talks about how you could not go out of your house to barter during the daytime because a sniper would get you. So you could only leave the house to go barter in the evening when it was dark and the snipers couldn't see you. You always had to take two people, one to watch your back while you were doing the bartering. You would never take anything with you to barter for the first one. You'd see if anybody had what you needed, and you would arrange what you had. What is it that you want for it? Okay, I will meet you back here tomorrow with what you want. Then you would come back the second day with what they wanted, and they would come back with what you wanted, and you would affect the trade. So it was always a 2 or 3 trip thing to get one transaction accomplished. He said, never use the same route going and coming back. And always make sure you have an overwatch to make sure when you're coming back that nobody's following you to see where you're getting all this stuff from. He said, you're going to be very, very vulnerable to theft both directions. So it doesn't matter what it is. For those of you who subscribe to, and I'm going to get a little bit blunt here, so please forgive me, to this farcical can't eat silver, I want to tell you that's it's one of the craziest things I've heard. If you don't value silver, just say I don't value silver. I can understand that. I can get that. But when you tell me you can't eat it, therefore it has no value, can you eat your pistol? You value it, but you can't eat it. You value your knife, but you can't eat it. You value your cookware, but you can't eat it, right? So saying I can't eat silver, therefore I don't want it, is nonsense. Just be honest and say, hey, I don't see any value in it. Then read Selko Begovich and find out that Selko Begovich, a member in his family, was dying and needed a regimen of antibiotics. And so somebody had a 1 ounce gold round. And they took the 1 ounce gold round and bought a complete 14-day supply of antibiotics to cure this woman of her disease with that 1 ounce gold round. So yes, gold and silver will have value in a post-apocalyptic economy. Maybe not the day after, but sometime as the barter economy begins to develop and people realize that there's going to be a need for a fungible form of currency, of money, then you're going to go back to the things that have historically held value. And one of the oldest things that has had constant value over time are the precious metals, silver and gold. You can also get into precious stones like diamonds, rubies, amethysts, and things like that. Those have also been considered things. Some of the commodities, now they are, you use them up, but we get the word salary from the Roman word sala, and sala, we translate that as salt. So basically back in the Roman Empire, salt was so valued that they gave a portion of salt to each Roman soldier as part of his salary, and that was what he earned on a monthly basis. So, some of the things that we use, salt for curing purposes, for whatever, food rations, etc., can be considered a form of barter or a form of trade. So I would encourage you, as we talk about surviving in a wartime economy, number one, don't let other people know what you have, okay? Number two, have a plan on what you're going to give other people in exchange for their service, because other people have not prepared. And since they have not prepared, the only thing they're going to have to offer you that you're going to be willing to take is going to be their labor. So, number one, what are you going to need as far as labor? Have a plan. I will feed your family today if you will do the following for me. Okay? However, make it look like you're scrapping to give them what they have. Okay? So that it doesn't look like you have just a whole bunch you can give away. Now, the way I do that is I don't, for those of you who have seen my weekly prepper pantry hauls, you know that I take this marker and I mark the date of every food that I purchase. And it's the date I purchase. It's the date I put it into my stock, not the date that it expires or best by date on a can. I put the date that I put on the, and that's for my rotational purposes. So it doesn't matter whether you use the day you put it on the shelf or the day that it expires, you still have the same rotational objective, and that is always use the oldest first. So by me putting the date that I purchased it, I know it's the oldest one on the shelf, therefore I'm going to take it first. I don't do that for foods that I intend to give away. In my last prepper pantry haul, I showed you that I bought a can of ravioli. No, it's not ravioli. What's it called? A can of lasagna and a can of beef ravioli, from Chef Boyardee. I don't put the date on those because if I did, that would be an OPSEC failure. They would know that I have a routine of putting things into my pantry and out of my pantry. Likewise, when I buy oatmeal, I buy it in the little envelopes, 10 to 12 envelopes, okay, per box. And I know that it's a little bit more expensive than buying it bulk. However, if I buy bulk and then I transfer it to a Ziploc bag and give it to somebody, that looks like I have more because I distributed from bulk to Ziploc and gave them Ziploc. Now, if you're going to do that, transfer the bulk to a Ziploc, keep the Ziploc, and give them the dregs of the can that you poured it out of, so that it looks like it's the end of that product and you don't have any more. That way, they don't think that you have a whole bunch that they're giving you, that you have stored. But I do it in envelopes, and that way I crunch up the envelopes and everything and make them look raggy. Take a little time so that it looks like I'm really having to search for it, and then I give it to them. If there's 4 people in the family, I may only have 2 oatmeals, 2 cans of ravioli. That's it. Okay, there you go. There's your meal for the day. Okay, so you're not going to overwhelm them with food, but you're also not going to underwhelm them with food. Look to provide them somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 calories per person for that day. Okay, just enough to keep them at that level where it's their survival. As they become more and more loyal to you, then increase the calorie count, and that's how I would handle that. The better work you do, the more calories I'm going to provide for you. Okay, let me go back through here and see some of your outstanding comments. Theoshos, I'm pretty sure it's about redoing the EBT for who really deserves it, getting out the ones who do not. I think that the EBT is a form of control, but I agree with you. I think that there was a report I saw, and I don't know the veracity of it, but basically the minute they transferred over to EBT, something like 200 people lost their checking accounts, banking accounts, and were shut off totally because of social scores. So Holly Ivins does the same thing I do, but she does it with bricks instead of rocks. I had bricks, but my bricks, you get them too hot, they kind of crumble. Or not crumble, but they crack. And so I was kind of concerned about that. Utah Mike supports several widows. Could not turn them away. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And they're going to, those are the people you can put on guard duty. Those are the people that you can have them help you with a collection of wood, collection of water, all those kinds of things. Cooking, outstanding. Radio watch, all kinds of great use that you can put the widows to. Cats and Prepping says that barter has always sounded like an uncertain concept to me, and I agree. I wholeheartely agree. I think another one is going to be the complexity of it. For example, I have a drink. I'm going to barter, okay? So I have 5 ounces of alcohol, and I need amoxicillin. So I'm going to go out, and the first person I encounter is going to have the amoxicillin, and they want my alcohol. As a matter of fact, they only want 4 of the 5 that I have. I'm going to get to keep one, and that's a perfect barter situation. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is you're going to find out that the person who has the amoxicillin wants a pound of beef. And the person who has the pound of beef wants 5 gallons of gas for it. And the person who wants 5 gallons of gas for it wants a sleeping bag. And the person who wants a sleeping bag, wants, and so it's going to be that kind of a chain, and you've got to find out what that chain looks like until you find out what you have that you can give to the person to start that chain. So I buy the sleeping bag so I can get the fuel, so I can take the fuel and exchange it for the whatever, so that I can exchange it for the whatever, so that I can exchange it for the amoxicillin. I think that's a more realistic view of how barter is going to happen. It's not going to be a very simple, you have, I have, bang, we've got a deal. I don't think it's going to be that simple. And I don't think most of us are going to have the time to do that either. I think that probably fairly soon. Now, Selko says it never happened in Yugoslavia, in Serbia, or Bosnia. Sokujin Sokujin-sen, no, Jin Sokushin doesn't talk about it either. But I'm fairly certain at some point there are going to be some sort of a market set up. A. American in his books, the Survivalist series, they set up a couple of these markets, and where people just kind of set up a tent. That's going to require security, and then the people who provide the security are going to be the people who are in charge, because they're going to be the ones who allow whoever to set up, and they're also going to be the ones who allow whoever to come in and trade. So, the security element that's ensuring the safe trading going on inside that area is going to have total control. And you're going to be under their control for the entire duration of that transaction. So you have to take that into consideration as well. So Shenanigans, welcome. Good to see you. I just noticed that because Little Lone Pepper's answering to you and says that she thinks that it will be bad in the bigger cities for sure. Hopefully things won't be bad in the smaller towns with lower crime rates. We have to keep our eyes open and our ears. Absolutely correct. However, I want to build on that. I want to say, I think crime rates are going to be terrible no matter where you are. Once people get desperate, uh, the average in the United States, they think, is probably 3 days worth of food. So most people probably have about 3 days worth of food in their home. Once that's gone and they start working on, extended things like using ketchup to make tomato soup and things like that, things are going to start to get a little bit uh, pesky. They're going to start wanting food, especially parents for their kids, and that's when you're going to see the violence go up. People will fight over food. I am quite certain of that. That's why you want to have little bits that you can pass out, but it looks like you're scraping in order to pass it out. That's the reason why I went to Goodwill, and my wife and I both have oversized clothing. And we have oversized clothing so that when anybody sees us in a post-apocalyptic world, it's going to look like we've lost 30 or 40 pounds from not eating. And, it looks like we're in the same boat that they are. If you go to if you go out in public and you're the fat man in a starving economy, there's going to be an awful lot of suspicion. So make sure that you have oversized clothing so that it doesn't give the appearance that you are the fat man in a starving community. Suburban Prepper, good evening. Welcome. Good to see you. Utah Mike, what a great idea. And I would strongly recommend you. I did that for a year. People scoffed at my total. And this was probably, oh gosh, it was just after we moved into this house. So it had to be about 9 years ago. I started on January 1st. I kept track of every tube of toothpaste, roll of toilet paper, box of Kleenex, how many number 10 cans of coffee we went through in a year, filters and things like that. And then at the end of the year, I was astonished. One of the biggest problems we have with preparing for what's going to happen, whatever that is the fact that we don't have enough storage space for the stuff that we want. There were on that channel, preparedness for the long term. They had, this is what one person needs for 1 month, for 3 months. Multiply that times 4, and then multiply that times the number of people in your family. So, like, they recommended that you have 2 cans of instant LDS oats to last 3 months for one person. So for 4 months, or for 12 months, for 1 year, that's 8 cans. For a family of 4, that's 32 cans. So where are you going to put 32 coffee cans, basically, number 10 cans, of instant oats? Then it has, the same thing for waffle and pancake mix. And it has the same thing for rice and the same thing for sugar. And then you're going to need flour to make bread. So, a number 10 can of flour per person per day. So we're talking about, you can fill up a house with all these supplies. And so one of the biggest problems we have is going to be space. And where are you going to put all this stuff? And how are you going to keep it temperature controlled? One of the things that we have to take into consideration is once SHTF happens, we lose temperature control. So the life expectancy of everything is going to be extremely shortened because now it's going to be exposed to the extremes of winter heat and summer freezing, right? No, you know what I mean. Holly Ivans has a bales of straw and a tent. Fantastic. So I think basically what she's going to do is put the straw underneath so that she has basically a transition zone between the coolness of the concrete slab and the linoleum or whatever she has above that, then the straw, and that straw breathes, so that'll be able to produce a little bit of heat inside that area from her tent, put the tent, and then possibly even some straw on top of it as another insulating factor. What a great idea. Fioxer says that his wood stove smokes very little. if you tend it to the right fire right and use smaller wood, absolutely, and drier wood. And that reminds me of another thing, Foxtrot, that I think most of us who live in an urban, suburban environment and have not had to use firewood forget, and that is the greener the firewood, the smokier the firewood. So you want to cure it. And most people say at least a year. So you will see quite often that people who have wood stoves like Theoxeras probably have 3 or 4 different stacks separated in bins. And those stacks, they know that they use them in a certain sequence. So that I don't use stacks 2 or 3 this year. That's for next year and the year after. I'm using from stack 1 this year. Those have already been cured for 2 or 3 years, right? So you want to cure your firewood. You don't want to use anything that's green. Same thing when you go out and cut a tree down. You want to chop it up and put it in, and get it where it can be exposed to the air. Then you want to cure that for 1 year before you use it. Let me see. Silver is antimicrobial. It can be used to treat minor wounds or made into colloidal silver solution. Absolutely, Caitlin. Thank you for that. That's a good ad. Let me see. If it gets real bad, my local area will set up soup lines. And let me tell you, there's a story about 2 airplane pilots who were shot down in Italy. And so the Italians out in the country found them and didn't turn them in to the Nazis or to the fascisti. And so they asked them if they could have a bowl, if they could have a pot and some water. And they started a fire, and they had this pot of water. And they put a stone in it. And the Italians thought they were crazy. They said, "What are you doing?" They said, "We're making stone soup." And they said, "Well, how stone soup? That's crazy." He said, "Oh, no, it's really good, really nutritious. And you ought to enjoy some with this." And they said, "Well, okay, let us have some." They said, "Oh, no, in order to eat the stone soup, you have to put something in. But we've already put the stone in. Now you have to add the other items, chicken, noodles, green beans, corn, peas." So the Italians said, "Yeah, sure." So they started adding to it so that they could get some of the soup. So what did they do? They enticed other people to basically make the soup. And then because other people made the soup, they got to have a little bit of the soup. So if I do a soup line here in the neighborhood, I've got a handout already ready, and it says, if you want to eat from our soup, and here's the 7 days, what we're going to have for soup each day. Day number 1 is going to be chicken noodle. So you have to bring number 1, 1 liter of water, and you have to bring 6 cubes of charcoal or sticks, 12 linear inches of sticks that are at least 1 inch in diameter. And that's going to be to keep the fire going so we can heat the water so we can make the soup. Plus you must bring, and this will determine how much of the soup you get. So those first 2 are just to play. Now we talk about how you want to get something out. If you bring a 12-ounce can of vegetables and pour it into the soup, you're going to get 2 12-ounce cans of soup back, okay? If you bring, let's say, a 6-ounce can of diced ham cubes or beef, shredded beef. You can get these on the shelf in the meat area at Walmart or any grocery store. If you bring a 6-ounce can, meat has a factor of 4. So whatever you put in meat-wise, you get to pull out 4 of those. If you bring in noodles and throw them in, that's a 1-for-1 exchange. So see, now we've got the people participating and bringing stuff into the soup so that they can pull out of the soup. And but that shows that I don't have everything, right? I may use something like, and most of my soups are based off of the Bear Country soups. Let me see if I can show you one of these. You can get these at most grocery stores as well. Bear Country soup. So I have a whole bunch of these that I vacuum sealed, and I'll use them as a starter for these soups. Now I can probably only do it for about 3 or 4 days, or I'm sorry, weeks. But because maybe I have 30 or 40 stashed, but not that much. And so, that'll make a good starting point for us to do other things with. So I'll share this. So this is the Bear Creek country soups. Little cheddar broccoli, I don't have any of that. Creamy potato I have. Creamy potato, by the way, if you add corn to it, is a superior soup. I have several of the darn good chilies, several of the minestrone, vegetable beef soup, the cheddar potato, and the tortilla soup. And then I think they have one more. Yeah, creamy wild rice. I don't have a creamy wild rice. So out of these 8, I have 7 of those. And so we'll alternate. Those will be the primary things that we'll have people adding to. So they will be, bringing in and adding to that. And then once we get in the habit, then we can get things going and have regular soup bowls at least once a day or probably once a week. We'll see what we can do. So that was a good discussion point there. Thank you for bringing it up. Let me see. Are you saying, Suburban Prep, are you saying who has a freeze dryer? I don't know if anybody here in the group has one yet. I know of one member who's considering buying one. I don't have one. I don't have, number 1, the money, and I don't have, number 2, the space. So let me see if I can get this. Where is my, I can't find my little, there it is, cursor that allows me to go down to the bottom. Let me see. I have been doing an awful lot of research into ramen, which is how the Koreans say it, or ramen, as the Chinese and Japanese say it. I have probably purchased a whole bunch of, as a matter of fact, I just got in 2 more packets. So the Japanese will cook their ramen in one pot and then pull the ramen out of the water, and they'll put it into a sauce. And that sauce is usually some sort of a soup. It's got all kinds of flavorings in it. They use an awful lot of miso. They use an awful lot of wine, vinegar, soy sauce, oyster sauce, a lot of things like that. And so that's going to be the sauce that they basically put the cooked ramen into, so that they don't leave it in that water that they cook. That's the instant type that we have here in the United States. But from what they do, that can constitute a full meal the way that they do it. They will add meats to it and egg and a lot of other things, so that they basically have a very hearty meal with that ramen. Two of the main ingredients that they like to put in it are miso soup. So I ordered this and this tofu and green onions. This is a 4-pack. But remember, because we're using this as a base for ramen, this will probably, that cup of soup would actually serve 2 people. So I'm going to get 8 servings out of this. And then this will last me, from what he talks, they use dashi, umami dashi. And so the way that the guy that I've been watching, he's a Korean, the way he talks is, you don't even put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of this stuff in each one. So, I'm going to have an awful lot. I've been stocking up an awful lot of ramen, and I think that's going to be another one of those soups that we're going to probably give away as a payment in exchange for any kind of labor. Tammy, freeze-dried blueberries and blackberries. Augustin Farms on Amazon has fantastic blueberries. That's Helen's favorite, so I've got her a whole bunch of blueberries. I got all my blackberries from Thrive Life, but they're no longer selling to the general public. So I would have to do some research to find blackberries. It would not surprise me to find out that Augustin Farm probably has blackberries as well. Shenanigans says, I cook ramen for 2 minutes, then add it into a frying pan with oil, add half the seasoning packet for 1 pack of noodles, add meats and yeah, and as a matter of fact, the channel that I watch, this Korean chef, that's exactly what he does. And he calls it fried ramen noodles. And so, yeah, that's a great way to do it. And you can add all kinds of things. In Korea, That's how they primarily eat spam. Spam is eaten with ramen noodles. So it's the meat side that's inside every bowl of ramen. So I have a friend who has a freeze dryer she bought with two other locals. I might ask her to dry some stuff for me in the near future. You know, Kaylin, one of the things that I think we could probably make a lot of money with is if we could buy a freeze dryer and then rent it out to people in the area. Uh, oh wow, shenanigans! What a great comment. Thank you. So she says that she uses that same miso soup for her husband, who is Hawaiian, and he probably mixes in spam with it too, doesn't he? I know the Hawaiians love spam almost as much as the Koreans. Absolutely, Little Lone Pepper. Little Lone Pepper says if the taps aren't working, I would be very leery of who I accepted water from. Well, and I caution you, don't pour that water directly into your soup bowl. I will take that water inside and run it through my filtration system. Absolutely. So I would not use their water, but I would use different water, water that I've already made sure it's pure. You're absolutely right. Great comment. Thank you. Let me see. Good comment, Kaylin. Emergency essentials may also have blackberries and blueberries, and I think their website is not emergency essentials. I think their website is beready.com or readystore.com. One of those two. Thank you, Suzanne, and welcome. By the way, thank you for putting in that link. Yeah, so Utah Mike says basically that there are people who rent freeze dryer space. Yeah, so you might charge you for one tray or whatever as each freeze dryer cycle goes. That probably is going to be expensive though because they have to recover the cost of the freeze dryer, the cost of the electricity, the time, and everything else. Because you can probably, you've got 352, how many days? 352, 356 days in a year. So you use the freeze dryer only half of that. So, you got to recoup your time. So it's probably going to be expensive, but I bet you can make, if you had one, you could probably make a lot of money from it. Deoxyrus likes Bear Creek. It does get old. That's why I vacuum seal it when I buy it. I did not know that, Tammy. Austin, Minnesota is the home of spam. That's highly likely, Shenanigans. She says that she thinks the broth from ramen is called siwa. Now the Koreans have a special, and I bought one. Probably it's out in the garage. It's a nickel copper pot, and it's just the size of a brick of ramen. And so they'll put it in there and they'll boil it in there. Then they'll pull it out and drain it and move it somewhere else. Now, another thing that they do is that sometimes they will cool it and they'll make it into a cold soup. Oh, I'm sure Shenanigans. Shenanigans says that they have a spam warehouse in Hawaii. Nothing but spam. Yeah, that spam, if you can get past the idea of what it is, which really isn't that bad, then you can definitely eat it. I eat it an awful lot, and I like it. I've got a lot of it stored for SHTF, and when I was younger, we ate it. I was not in a high income family, and I think people look down on it only because it's associated with poverty eating. But let me tell you, it's great, and especially some of the tastes that they've got out now. They've got Korean barbecue, which is basically bulgogi taste. They've got teriyaki taste. They've got bacon taste, and that's made with real bacon, by the way. And then spam, the original, hickory. They've got all different flavors to it. So it is a very widely produced and widely loved product. I'm not going to go so far as to say I love it, but I will say that I can definitely eat it. As a matter of fact, I just bought a Spam slicer because that's what they used in Korea. So it has this wire handle. You put your Spam in there. It's got a wire handle. It slices it perfectly so that you get 8 slices of Spam per can. And then you can fry that or whatever. Lay it into your ramen, whatever you need to do. Okay, so it is beprepared.com. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for doing that research and putting that up there. See, and Utah Mike prefers the canned corned beef, and I don't care for the canned corned beef. So different people have different tastes. We just have to admit that. I like the canned chicken. I can use an awful lot of it, and that will go extremely well in chicken and rice and chicken and dumplings and chicken noodle soup. I would say that a can of chicken split amongst 4 bowls of ramen would be phenomenal. Same thing with, you can get those little same size cans as tuna. You get the same size can with clams, oysters, tuna, shrimp, both small and medium-sized shrimp. And those would be phenomenal toppers for any kind of a ramen dinner. So 1 can would be for four bowls of ramen. And I think those would be fantastic additions that you might want to consider. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a short on that. Somebody recommended, by the way, whoever it was, thank you so much. I've done the research. We've got everything ready. I had Helen help me, and we found all the materials here inside the house. So tomorrow I'm going to be making a short on how to prepare for and survive influenza. So what are all the over-the-counter things you need for influenza preparations? Okay, so I think we've exhausted the hour. Thank you all for being here. Once again, I tell you, this is one of the best books I've read. Make sure you have a copy of it to add to your library. It's going to be something you really, really need in your post-apocalyptic life. So thank you for being here. And we'll close with the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. That's Leviticus. What am I doing in Leviticus? My tabs. There we go. Okay. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your fantastic, phenomenal, outstanding, superior comments. Gosh, I tell you what, you are such a great group of people. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for recommending your friends. It's your comments that keep this alive and keep it going. So you are phenomenal people. Thank you. So we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please continue to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the key. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.